next in a series of podcasts. My name is Jamie Austin. I'm with PSP Turnkey Solutions. And with me today is Jay Ryan of Kilfinane Energy. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Jamie. Glad to be here.
It's always good to be seen, I like to say. So it's good to see you. I know a little bit about it, but tell the audience a little bit about what Kilfinane Energy is and what you do.
Okay, well, basically, we are energy efficiency consultants, which means we help businesses save money and improve their bottom line by cutting energy costs. And we generally start with LED lighting. LED lighting is kind of the low-hanging fruit of the energy efficiency business. It's also the biggest bang for your buck. Everybody has lighting. Everybody pays an electric bill. And the short story is we typically save people between 40 and 70% every month on their lighting bill. For most people, unless you do a lot of heating and cooling, lighting is the biggest part of your energy bill, of your electric bill. And then, well, because of rebates from your public utility, you typically are going to, have anywhere from 40 to 80% of your project paid for. So if you're saving 50, 60, 70%, and someone is paying for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% of your project, return on equity, return on investment is quite high, and the break even is quite short. So that's basically the basis of it. We only deal with non-residential clusters, so it's industrial, but it also includes hospitals and schools and everything but residences. Once we have happy customers, and with lighting, it's a given. We've never had an unhappy customer. Then we do have some other solutions depending on the type of building. We don't have additional solutions for everyone, but for people that have a big flat roof that have never put up solar, we will ask them why, and if they don't want solar, we will put solar on the roof and pay them rent and sell that solar to others, and they can make money. If they've got a lot of glass, whether it's lots of windows, walls, doors, we can use thin films to help them save money in cooling and in heating. We are involved in EV charging stations. And then the last one is something called demand response. And this is for large energy use, people that have maybe a $50,000 a month electric bill. And we can get them paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on call to lower their energy use on the hottest days of the summer, where there's the highest level of demand on the system, because the system operators can't let it go down. They can't let people who have oxygen machines run out of electricity. So if you're willing to, and what makes that really interesting is a lot of people that are very large energy users have backup generating power, and that's fine. So, the New York ISO will pay you, say, $100,000, in some instances up to like $300,000+ a year, to be ready to turn down your electric usage on, let's say, a really hot afternoon in August. And if you've got backup generation, it's a layup. So those are some of the things we do.
All right. It starts me to ask questions. So my first question is, are you the shoemaker whose children don't have shoes? Do you have LED lights in your office there?
Yes, you can kind of see it up there. We've converted over to LED a few years ago.
All right. I feel much better now knowing that. Now, but let's follow through on that one. So looking at your lights, I'm going to say they're no different than the fluorescents that we know. In other words, from a fixture standpoint.
Yeah, they're the same size. Yeah, basically it's a 1-for-1 replacement. You replace a 2x4 or a 2x2 or any other fixture with the LED equivalent. And I tend to present these or sell these as a financial transaction or financial sale, because you're saving a lot of money. But at the end of the day, you're getting brighter, longer lasting, healthier, and greener lighting. And I can go deeper into each of those four, but it's pretty pretty self, apparent that they're really better in every way. There's no reason not to do it.
But they're more expensive. To buy an LED light bulb is the same price as a
Well, we don't
fluorescent.
replace, so we don't replace bulbs or tubes. That was what people did 5, 10 years ago. But that's really not the best way to do it. And the reason is because the bulbs and tubes don't last that long. So when you just replace a bulb or a tube, you're replacing an inexpensive but inefficient light with an efficient light that's expensive. And if they don't last long, then there's no real economic payback. So we only replace full fixtures. So when you replace the full fixture, they have heat sinks in them, which make the lights last a long time. And I'm talking about 15, 20, 25 years. So
And that's where I was. That's where I kind of was going. So, I put these LED lights in my office, and I never touch them again.
yeah, I mean, that's the flaw in my business plan. I don't have repeat customers. I have to keep
There you
constantly
go.
find new ones.
You and funeral homes don't get repeat customers.
Yeah. And funeral homes are not good customers for me either because they typically have desk lamps and keep the lights down low.
Okay.
Table lamps.
So you're saying is the greatest opportunity of energy savings, cost reduction is in the light bulbs. Again, since is in the light fixtures.
Well, so for your typical office and your typical business, yes. And by that I mean it's your lowest cost, fastest return, and highest return. Now, if you've got a lot of heavy machinery and heavy pumps and really old, out of date, and inefficient chillers and boilers, you can actually save more money in aggregate by updating those. In other words, you're going to save more money on a monthly basis by upgrading those. However, it's going to be an extremely expensive prospect, and it's going to take you much longer to break even on that. So there's kind of the absolute savings and the efficiency of the savings.
But you're talking, when you're talking HVAC or heavy equipment, you're talking, a manufacturing operation as opposed to an office, where you are. I mean, probably the heaviest piece of equipment you have in your office is your copy machine.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, and believe it or not, copy machines and computers don't use a lot of electricity. It's lighting uses more. Old-fashioned lighting uses more.
So there's no reason why companies, shouldn't change to LED. So let's say, for example, I rent in an office space and I've got, 2,500 square feet. I don't know how many lights fixtures I have in there, but let's say I just signed a new 10-year lease. It's worth it for me to have you come in at my expense and change all those fixtures from old-fashioned fluorescents to new LEDs, because over time, since I'm paying the electric bill, I'll recoup more than I spent.
Absolutely, and it's usually whoever pays the electric bill is the one who has the incentive to upgrade. But yeah, if you as I said before, if you can break even in 1 year, then if you have a 2-year lease, you're going to save money by doing this. Some people won't do that. They don't like their landlord or something, but you really, biting your nose to spite your face. You really want to do what's economically most advantageous to you. And so it's almost always the case. There's only two good reasons for someone to tell me after I present a proposal, in my opinion, to say no. And one is, well, I've already done it. Yeah, if you've already done it, I can't help you. And the other one is people say, well, it makes a lot of sense, but I just don't have it in the budget. I just don't have the cash, which can be an issue. However, there are loan facilities that are designed specifically for energy efficiency projects. So I use a couple of financing companies, and they are actually low interest rate loans because they know, for instance, a typical loan, let's say for your office, you're going to save $500 a month, and your monthly payment for 5 years is $300 a month. So you do this, and you're still cash flow positive every month until that loan is paid off, at which time the full $500 goes to your bottom line. So there's really
So,
never if you haven't done it, there's no great reason not to do it.
and again, just, what would it cost before rebates, let's say? What does it cost to change? I don't know, do on a per fixture basis, or, is there economies of scale? What would it cost to change over an office?
It's almost impossible to say, because I before I present a proposal, I have to go do a very detailed survey of what you have to see what it is. So, your office could be, and quite often is, underlit, could be overlit. Offices are usually done well. Offices are usually okay. But when I do, factories, warehouses, distribution centers, sometimes that facility has changed tenants 5 times over 20 years, and they've each adjusted the light. And now there's, uh, 500 lights where they don't need that many. So it's, I'm not copying out, but it's really difficult to say what something would cost. If you say, I have a 20,000 square foot building, how much would it cost? I can't answer. And by the same token, I can't tell you what your rebate will be, because the older and more inefficient lighting you have, and the newer, and well, they're all new, and the more efficient lighting that I put in, the bigger your rebate's going to be. And I sometimes run up against a problem there, in that, for instance, I'm on the PSEG Long Island website, my company, Kilfinane Energy, and somebody will call me and put me in competition with another guy, and they have old, inefficient lighting, and I'm going to put in the best, most efficient lighting that costs a little more, not lots more, but if I'm putting in a 30-watt 2x4 and someone else is putting in a 50-watt 2x4, theirs might be 10, 15, 20% cheaper. And I don't do that. I use the most efficient stuff, and I try to explain this to people, but I lose jobs as a result. And the reason is, if you use the cheaper stuff, you're not going to break even for years, or for a lot longer than if you use mine. So it's absolutely in the client's best interest to use the most efficient lighting. And that's just the way I look at it.
Well, do it right the first time, so you don't have to do it a second time. I'm gonna stick with you. I'm gonna push on this one a little bit, and that is, what's the cost of a 2x4 replacement fixture? So I want not that I'm only going to replace one fixture, but what if I called you and I said I want to change that overhead fluorescent into an LED? Is there a
Well, I mean, if you're buying one, it would cost you more than if you're buying 100 per fixture.
obviously?
And there's different types of fixtures. I mean, 2x4s, so they're different brands. They're obviously different wattage, different color temperature. So there's no, but let me just say, it's going to cost you less than $100 per 2x4 office fixture.
See, and not to push you, and for those of you who are listening, pay attention. There's a lot of variables to what he's saying, as he just described. What I was just trying to give you all is the idea. Okay, so it's going to be less than $100 per fixture. Now I've got kind of a framework of, if I've got 100 fixtures in my office, then I kind of got an idea of what my gross cost outlay is, let's say. And then you start getting into the variables of, as you say, your wattage, your color, and whatnot. And then you start to get into what's the rebate. But at the end of the day, if I've got 100 fixtures and it's $100 each, that's $10,000, right?
Right, and it's going to be less than that, and then you're probably going to get about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in rebate. So it's really a lot less than that.
And then again, from that standpoint, right? So if it was a cost of 10 and I get 5 or 6 or 7 back, so it's only going to cost me 3 or 4. And is there such a thing as what is the savings differential based on a 2x4 fluorescent to a 2x4 LED? In other words, does it cost me $1 a day to light that light?
We'll see, then there you're getting into two other variables, what you're paying the utility. Because first thing I do when I do any of these jobs, I get people's PSEG bill, and there's a pretty broad range. Some non-residential customers are paying like 12 cents per kilowatt hour, and others are paying like 35 cents a kilowatt hour. So that's a huge difference. Secondly, is your usage schedule. If one place is 9 to 5, 8 hours a day only, and another is 12, 14, 16, 20 hours a day, 24 hours a day, they're going to get more savings. Basically, when I've done jobs and I've had people come back to me and say, you said I was going to save $800 a month, and I'm only saving $600 a month. And I'll say, well, all right, let's dig down a little deeper. And usually what I find is they did give me a proper usage schedule. So they're not, so they're not using the lights as often. So they're not saving as much. Okay, there's nothing I can do about that. And then another thing that can happen is if their PSEG rate goes up. Well, I said you're going to save $500 a month, but PSEG raised your rates by 20%. Let's just say I'm making up numbers. Let's say they raised it by 20%. So obviously your bill isn't going to go down by as much as I said it was. But the reality there, if you understand math, is you're actually saving more. Because if you're saving 50% of 100, you're saving $50 a month. If you're saving 50% of 120, you're saving $60 a month. So it's the absolute dollar amount is a little different, but you're actually saving more on a monthly basis.
So
So it's
you're in a
not,
win.
I was going to say, even after I prepare very detailed financial proposals, and my background is in finance on Wall Street, so it's probably overkill, but I always present them in person, because if I just sent it to you, you'd probably look, oh, $40,000, I'm out. But it's not $40,000, with electricity savings, with equipment savings, meaning the fact that they last a lot longer, with rebates, with tax incentives. There's a lot of moving parts, but when you understand the moving parts, it's a should be a very easy decision once you understand it. Okay.
Where I was going was, you're in a win-win, lose-lose scenario. And what I mean by that is, once you get to somebody that they introduce you to that has an office or a warehouse that that has old fixtures and old lighting, and you have the opportunity to present to them the idea of converting over to LED, it's a win-win. Because what you're really saying is, at the end of the day, is if you spend this today and we can finance it, you'll get this much back every month forever. And it will take 1 year, 2 years, whatever it is for your ROI. And then everything after that obviously is a profit.
Yep, exactly.
But on a lose-lose situation, and that's why I say it's a win-win, lose-lose, is everybody looks at that first thing that says, oh, I have to spend this much money up front. Well, and I can, and then, you and I have talked about this, because there's no reason why any tenant who's paying their electric bill shouldn't do this, other than their short-sightedness. It's either a short end of a lease. All right, so if you're in the last year of your
Yeah,
lease
if you're in the
and you're
last
not
year, then
renewing, I get
right.
it. But if you're going to be there, as you say, anything beyond what the expected ROI is, throw a little cushion in. If you're going to be on that ROI, there's no reason why you wouldn't do it. So
Right.
let's talk about the disruption of service for the moment. And that is, what does it take to go into that office and replace every one of those lighting fixtures with high efficient LEDs?
What it takes, it's actually very low disruption. Let's say you have an office with one or two lights. The day, first off, the office manager or the boss is going to tell everyone, okay, this Thursday and Friday, we're having our lighting change. And, we'll let you know when somebody's coming, when they're coming. Go get a cup of coffee, come back in 20 minutes, and that's it. If
Beautiful.
you're, let's say it's a big factory floor, we don't bring in 50 electricians and close down the whole floor. We bring one or two teams of 3 or 4 electricians, and they gradually move around. And so if they're doing your little area, you have to shut down for in a big warehouse or factory situation, it might take them a little longer. But it's not like the longest job I ever did was over a 200,000 square foot building out in Yaphank, with like 35-foot ceilings and lots of shelving and racking and stuff on the floor. And we were out of there in 3 days.
Okay, so like you said, it's, come into my office, there's 2 light fixtures, it's 20 minutes, you're in and out before they even know it. I'm assuming under those circumstances, you're literally disconnecting the power to the current fixture, putting the new fixture in, connecting the power, off you go.
Yeah. And, there's always that little bit of ceiling schmutz that falls down, and our guys.
Wait, no, in the lighting business, is that the technical term? We have some
Yes,
some ceiling
that's
schmutz?
that's in the manual. And we make sure that when somebody comes back, there's no dust in their coffee or on the keyboard or their laptop or whatever.
So it's easy peasy lemonade squeezy, right? Just
Yeah,
you find somebody who's got old fixtures. You say, we can make this work for you. We'll come in. It'll take us a day or 2. We won't interrupt everybody. We'll have little disruption. We'll keep the place clean. And then when we're finished, you've got better lighting. It's more efficient lighting, and it lasts longer. So
it's
nobody's
healthy.
coming and
It's also
changing that light
healthier.
bulb.
It's also
Oh,
healthier. So fluorescent tubes contain mercury. They contain PCBs. They have they pulse, which you can't see. There's like a cycle, which isn't upsetting to most people, but it is. It does cause eye weariness over the course of a day. And for certain people on the autistic spectrum, it can actually be unhealthy. And that even send them into kind of fits and convulsions. So it's much healthier than fluorescent.
do you have like that one prized story, that one just grand slam home run customer who you changed their bulbs one day and bingo, they started to save money immediately?
Yeah, so this is a good one. It's a small one. I personally prefer giant jobs. I make more money on a giant job, but this one I think people can kind of inherently understand and realize, wow, that's a pretty big deal. And it was 2 young women in their early 30s were dancers, and they bought their mentor's dance studio, just a strip mall in East Northport. And the woman they bought it from had retired, and she hadn't really updated the place in a long time. And it had old T12, lots of 4-lamp T12 2x4s. And so we did their lighting, and they are going to save $1,500 per month. So we're talking about 2 young women just starting out in business, small strip mall dance studio, and they're going to save $1,500 a month. And because their stuff was so old, and I put in the ultra efficient stuff, they're going to break even in 3 months. So after 3 months, $1,500 a month goes into their pockets, and that's easily
So
understood. That's not a Harvard Business School case study. That's easy to understand. That's easy to understand.
I like when he sneaks the Harvard stuff in there. So
Well,
that's
$1,500
pretty amazing. And if anybody is listening maybe you won't say $1,500 right off the bat, but if he's saving that much with those fixtures, how, and it certainly wasn't a lot, as
And
you
this
said, it was a
wasn't a
small
big
job.
space. This is
No,
a strip mall dance studio. This wasn't a 30,000 square foot factory. This was a pretty small space.
so I want to leave with two things, and that is, the first one is, granted, it's cost effective pretty much at any size based on time. But what's the sweet spot? If I were to find you a client, what would you describe as your perfect client?
There's, well, for me, first thing is bigger is better. The more lights I put in, it's better for me. I mean, everyone's going to have 8 hours probably a day, but the more hours a day your lights are on, the more you save, which makes you more inclined to want to use, our services. And most people don't know how much they're paying per kilowatt hour to PSEG, but the higher your rate is, the better. So, the easiest thing is bigger is better. And then I need to know who's paying the bill. Typically in an industrial setting, a warehouse, distribution center, a factory, the tenant pays the bill. So I want to talk to the tenant. Typically in Class A office space, the landlord pays the bill. So I want to talk to the landlord.
There you go. So the more lights, the merrier. The
Yep.
more lights you have, the more electricity you use, and the
The more
more
you save.
opportunity for savings.
Right.
All right. The other thing I want to leave with is, because it's not, as you said, you started off, it's not just lights, but it's a variety of other things. So I want people to remember that, I think it would be a nice slogan is, once the client sees the light of the benefit of your LED, then they have the opportunity to see solar, glass, demand response. There was one other, but the idea
EV
is that,
charging, EV charging stations are the one thing I do that is not like conservation of energy and saving money, but it's just something that fits because people are going in that direction.
oh, we have to talk about that one for a moment. EV chargers, as in electric vehicles.
Mhm.
And you put them outside an office?
Yeah, I mean, we put them in your parking lot. They can be anything from, you can do it as a benefit for your employees and you pay for it, or it can just be a convenience for your employees so they can charge while they're at work. Um, it can be, private. The CEO has his own private charger. I've done those. So it's whatever the client wants, really. But it's kind of like with lighting. I tell people, these rebate programs have been around for a while. Right now, you're getting an incentive and rebate. It's maybe not tomorrow, but in the next few years, it's going to change to mandates and penalties. And I think it's going to be a longer time frame, but at some point, people are going to, if you build a new building or you take over a new lease, you're going to probably have to put in some EV charging stations. So, it's a positive. It might help you attract employees.
I see that as the newest and greatest employee benefit. Come work for us. We have free EV charging stations.
For people that have an electric car, that's actually an important thing.
Hey,
It really can be a
I've,
big deal.
which only leads me to the final
Or
conclusion.
clients, if you have a retail store,
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Come to my shop and
you
charge
can
your car for,
park here, you can charge your car, and that makes the person stay in your store longer than they would hotels.
and basically you're paying the electric bill
Yeah,
for that
yeah.
charge
And
station.
hotels do this, but I
Mhm.
think if you have a retail store and you say you can charge while you're in my store, it's going to be attractive to people.
And I'm assuming you control when it's on, when it's off, or there's a
Yeah,
code, or in other words, I could just say I have a free charging station, and now all my friends are coming over to my office and charging their cars.
yeah. You have to manage it.
Okay,
It can be
which,
managed manually or with a app on your phone.
all right, folks. Well, you heard it here first, and that is, that there is a tremendous opportunity for cost savings by looking at how you're spending your, what you're spending your electricity on, be it lights. We talked very quickly about your roof and solar. We
Heating and
talked
cooling.
about, I guess it would be covering the glass, tinting the
Yeah,
glass so that it
thin
doesn't.
film through glass.
There you go. And then, of course, our EV chargers, which is the next greatest employee benefit. And of course, the demand response issues for those of you in the warehouse or factories that have a large demand. So you know that you can save money. And now you know that Jay's the guy that you should call. Have him come in, do a full-blown proposal review of what you've got and find out where and how much you can save and save the planet at the same time. If you'd like to meet Jay or you have any questions or you'd like to have, is give me a call at 631-241-3958 or email me at Jamie, Jamie at PSP Turnkey Solutions. And remember, we're here to help you. So again, thank you, Jay, and you have a great day.
Thanks, Jamie. You too. Have a great weekend.